Morning, everybody. It is 8:30 a.m. It is March 30th. Welcome to my channel. Now, Friday, the internals are pretty, I would say, not weak, but the one canary in the coal mine was the Nasdaq exchange. ADD was a negative 2,000, and usually when that happens, the market's going to have a hard time of going up. So I had a mixed bag that day. I was short twice, had huge excursions, and was waiting for the move actually where the bottom was around 6,400. Hold on a second. So they both hit break evens, and then I wanted to take a long because the actual internals weren't that weak. That would have worked. So two trades that worked didn't hit break even because I was looking for the 6,400 and 6,440 targets. And then I had a chance at a short that I wanted, but since I shorted twice already, internals still weren't weak. I was like, oh man, is this? I'm not sure. And then I took a long where I wanted to. Almost looked like it was going to work, and that's when the market kind of fell apart and just kept selling off. I did profit on a short scalp in the ES, and I did profit off an SPX credit spread. So overall, the day I made money, but it just sucks because I was in the short, and I wouldn't have gotten stopped out of the second one if I just kept it on, and then it would have been a monster trade. But that's just trading. I can't really complain, but that's just you know each trade I got in, like when you get those big excursions and you're in them, and then it comes back and hits your break even. I was like, man. So anyway, that's kind of what happened on Friday. Now overall, the markets kind of just kept selling off towards the end of the day, and then over the weekend, you can see crude is over $100 a barrel. And then Trump again is saying a deal is close. That kind of just juiced the markets a little bit. I don't know how much we can trust that anymore. I mean, because I know those algos kick in. I don't know how much the market can trust that anymore. Algos kick in. So, like I said, it automatically happens. It's not like a person that's doing it. So, but I don't know. How many times can that really happen now? I mean, the war is almost over. There's peace talks. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to believe anything until actually something is actually changed, and both sides are saying the same thing. Who knows? Okay, but the markets are took back a lot of the losses from Friday already. Already took back a lot of these losses. So that's what's going on. Now we do have Fed Powell speaking today at 10:30. Who knows what he's going to say, right? So let's just get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and bond profile to find structure of markets, low supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Okay, that's how I come up with game plans. Now, also, when the market opens, I use my market internals. That is my bread and butter. A little ICT thrown in there. And of course, I'm using volume profile, market profile, like I said. All right. So that's what I do every day. All right. Now, every morning, hopefully, you can join me. Subscribe, set an alert. Give you the market story, the economic calendar, the market news, the leaders and laggards, technical analysis, and I give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and ES futures towards the end of the stream. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Now, one addition, I keep making additions, right, to my Discord. Okay. So I'm tracking my accuracy on my pre-market scenarios, my levels, okay, and as well as my trades. Okay. So now at the end of each week, there'll be like a performance recap. So that was last week's recap plus 11.75R and all of my calls. 13 out of 14 scenarios hit. So this is just for myself too, right? To say like, hey, I read the market correctly, and sometimes those scenarios hit, but a trade setup isn't there. But it still means that I'm accurately calling the market. So this is my scorecard to show everybody that, hey, like, I know what I'm talking about, and you can trust me. Okay. And it's also for myself to be like, all right, hey, let's look. You should really trust yourself on your, which I do, but it's nice to see it broken down. Okay. So of course that comes from the pre-market scenarios that I give every morning, and obviously you're on my YouTube live stream right now. Whoever's here, get my gamma levels every day. Get the weekly expected move I just posted again. You get my daily receipt with the timestamps throughout the day of what I'm looking at. Okay. So let's move on to futures watch list here. Ethereum up 4.21%. Bitcoin's up almost 3%. Silver's up 2.5%. Gold up 1.70%. Crude over $100 a barrel, up 1.26. 30-year bonds are being bought, should send yields lower. Russell up almost up 1%. ES up 0.80. Nasdaq's up 0.80. The Dow is up 0.77. The dollar is up 0.16. The 10-year yield is down 1.33%. And the VIX is down 3.48%. Okay. Now, let's go into Mag 7 Plus. So Coinbase getting some love today with the Bitcoin proxy, basically up 3%. AMD up 1.75. Meta's up 1.32. Amazon up 1.20. Okay, Nvidia's up almost a percent. Good morning, Chief. Now, let's see here. There's not a lagger except Netflix. I'm not sure why yet. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe there's something here. No. No. It's so funny. Earnings season's around the corner in April, and this week's the end of a quarter. So let's get into top sectors. The mining NEM is up 1.5%. Chevron's up 0.94. GEV Vernova up 0.92. Uber up 0.85. Okay. There's really not a lagger here. Okay, really not a lagger here. Let's go to sectors. Sectors, we have semiconductors up over 1%. Technology up over 1%. Energy up 1%. Now, that's the weird thing, right? Energy's up. Crude is up. And the market is up. Okay. Everything's up. Nothing is lagging today. Maybe people see this as a buying opportunity. Like I said, I know Trump just came out with a bunch of news that juiced the markets a little bit. Who knows? Like I said, who really knows what's the truth? Because I don't. Okay. Moving on to the economic calendar now. Okay. So today you got Dallas Fed. Doesn't really move markets usually. But Fed Chair Powell speaking at 10:30 a.m. Okay. Now the big one this week. Interesting. Is that really true? Interesting. Because the market's closed on Friday, and you have non-farm payrolls and unemployment. Interesting. Um, so interesting. All right, that's Good Friday. So we have a shortened week this week, and that's really it. I just think Fed Chair Powell today speaking. Okay. Now let's look at Trump's schedule today. Again, he talks. Sometimes you don't even know it. But let's see here. 10:15, President participates in a White House internship program class photo. 1:30, President participates in a policy meeting. All right, so that's what we got for Trump. And you'll see the bunch of red here. This is what moved the markets. Trump on Iran. The U.S. is serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. Trump on Iran will completely obliterate all of Iran's electrical generating plants, oil wells in Karg Island if a deal is not reached. Trump deal will probably be reached. Great progress has been made. And it looks like Besson is talking as well. Let's see, he's saying, seeing more and more ships go through Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz. So let's see. Let's see. Like I said, I don't know what's gonna happen. Right? It's very hard. The news is very contradictory. A lot. Okay. Let's see if there's anything to talk about here. This is just that what we just went over. I don't know if there's going to be anything here that we just didn't read. And like basically, Iran has basically said there's been no direct talks, just intermediaries. So, like I said, I can't spend too much time on it. Let's see if there's any other news. Nvidia PE sinks to 7-year low. Fed's faith in the anchored inflation expectations may be coming under stress. Let's see. Lucrative bets that anticipated Trump's policy surprises warrant scrutiny, experts say. Um, U.S. Treasury to consult with insurance regulators on private credit lenders. Maybe is there something going on with Netflix? Let's see. Nope. Okay. Not gonna spend too much time there. All right. Let's do a breath check. Let's do a breath check. Actually, you know what? Let's look at credit spreads. Okay. They've been rising, but not at an alarming rate because if you go max, this will show recessions, right? So we're not at anywhere near those levels yet. Okay. Let's look at the breadth. Ooh, look at that. I don't know what's going on with this chart. Maybe I need to just go to. Okay. Let's start here. So it looks like our breadth for the 50-day percentage of stocks degraded on Friday. No surprise there, 20%. Okay, 20%. And then we're going to look at the bullish percent index. Give us the percentage of stocks on buy signals. 36%. Okay, 36. Now let's look at the NDX. Now NDX was relatively weaker. 34% at buy signals. Okay, not too crazy levels yet. Okay, now let's look at our Infotech specifically. So notice how with the software it got a nice big push up, but then it degraded again on Friday. 30% on buy signals. And then finally we'll go with financials. And that really came back down to 28. So we're coming back to very frothy financials. Okay, very, very, very oversold. So that's just our breath check-in. Okay, about the market. Now we can move on to our market internals recap. Okay, so this was the canary in the coal mine right here, the Nasdaq exchange right there. Whenever you have a minus 2,000 or more, it's basically telling you every stock in the exchange level, which means out of like 3,000 stocks, are they're below the previous day's close. Okay, and generally when you get that number, the market's not really going to go up and pops are going to get sold, and it's exactly what happened. That's why I shorted twice. Even though internals, I want to show you this, were not weak up until this point. Up until that point, the market was ranging. Okay, then that's when it just fell apart and everyone panicked and dumped. So up until this point, it was a very balanced market. That's why I was not scared to long. However, once my last long failed, it just degraded. Okay, so that's your internal check-in. All right, now we're going to get into the daily charts here. A couple notable things that happened for the daily charts. Okay, okay. So the SPY, you can see, broke the previous week's lows, gapped, never filled that gap, and we came down to look at this level I talked about, right? This is the anchored VWAP for last year. So that means from the beginning of last year, if you hit this, that means the average buyer from last year is basically right here. Okay? It's pretty significant. That means the average buyer, all the way back from the beginning of last year, their average entry is here. Pretty telling. Okay, pretty telling. Where are we now? 639.50. We're all the way back here. So right now you're getting a serious bounce. Okay, we close at 634 and we're up $5 already. Does this hold? I don't know. Crude at over $100 a barrel. Like I said, Trump just trying to juice that market with that news. Okay, let's look at futures. Okay, here's futures. So you can see this morning, like overnight, we did drop lower. So then we swept these lows. And do we rise back up all the way up to here? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this is just exuberance. Hey, this is about a dip moment. Or this is like shorts taking some profits. It could be a combo of both. I mean, crude is over $100 a barrel. I don't see this war ending anytime soon, even though Trump's saying it might. Right? So let's go to Qs. So Qs, look what it hit. Last year's anchored VWAP. Boom. Right there. That's why I keep that level on my chart. Okay. I said a key next support would have been the 560s. Right? Probably reached that in the overnight. Okay. And where are we now? 567.25. 567.25. So you are like in the middle of Friday. Okay. You're in the middle of Friday. So let's look at the futures. Swept the previous session's lows. Boop. Last week's lows right here. Back inside pretty much the center, the middle of the session, right? So that is your daily charts. Moving on. We're going to go right up to the hourlies. Okay. Let's talk about the hourly charts here. Okay, so like I said all the time, markets are very efficient. Notice this is like after that sell-off, it just sold. Right? Actually here, right? Sunday night you opened up, pushed lower, right? But look at that poor structure and look what the market did. Whoop, took it right back, came back into where? Supply, where there isn't poor structure, and the market stopped. Not a shocker. Not a shocker. Okay. Now, there was a bearish FVG here, so I can get rid of that. Okay. So we're right back into the most traded price of Friday. Not a shocker as well. Okay. Now, I will add this little right there. This little equal low right here. Got another one right here. Those are all draws on liquidity, which means the market probably will be attracted to them. Okay. So we're in the most traded price of Friday. After we just completed this little move, and with Trump's news, that spike was right there. So, what am I looking at? Right? Well, if you're close to the 50% retracement of, I think you're more than that in the ES. Okay, this is where it gets a little shaky because a couple things can happen. We just had a run up. All you need is some kind of Iran saying, like, what is he talking about? And we can get some resistance here. And if you break this level around here, which is 64.30s, you could really just take, you have a little demand here, you could just take all that back. Okay. However, if somehow this is positive and you break this supply, you can try to fill that gap, hold it, and then there's poor structure here that you can go all the way up to about 65.70s. So we just don't know. And it's Monday. It's Easter this Sunday. Okay. So I don't know. Never do. Right? You can only talk about the probabilities. Okay. So same thing in the NASDAQ. Okay. Now, NASDAQ, that's last week's lows. Same thing. Poor structure, cleaned up the poor structure. Check. Markets are efficient. Stopped in supply and where? At the most traded price of Friday. Okay, so this is the little battleground here. Like I said, it's either going to do this, fill that gap and make it up all the way to 240s, or you're breaking this 33 and change support here, and you can go all the way back down to the overnight lows. Now, who knows what happens? Okay, but that's basically it. There's not much more to talk about. It's Monday, quarter end. Okay, and Mondays tend to be, even though I had a good Monday last week, they tend to be a little bit, let's digest the weekend. It's Monday, kind of like a slug sometimes. Okay. Now we're going to finish it up with market profile, volume profile. The way I love to look at the markets this way, because it breaks up the overnight session from the RTH session, and you really can see stuff pretty good. So this is your market profile, volume profile. Okay. So we are a little above the 50% retracement. So let me break this out. All right. Let's get in to the ES long and short trade scenarios. The first thing we're going to do is mark off some important levels. Okay. So around 64.60 is the most traded price of Friday. So that's where the market's really just stalling. Then you have the 6447 is the 50% retracement of Friday. We're above that now in the ES. Okay, we're above that now. Okay. And we have some demand zones at 64.18, 63, like 90, probably 95s, let's call it. Okay. So that's kind of what we're working with. And we're in supply right now. Like I said, I think this has a chance to just range today, right? Or if something happens news catalyst wise, we could just rip up. But like I said, we took care of the inefficiency in the market this morning. So like I said, now we're at a place where everybody agreed upon as the most traded price on Friday. So that makes sense. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is honestly a short this time. Okay, so we're at the most traded price Friday. All right, 64.60s. We're in supply. We got a spike up from the Trump news. Okay, so a couple things here. Now, right here on this level, 64.60, if the market can do one or two things, you move above it, right? Maybe you tap the overnight highs, cannot break Friday's highs. Okay, come back, retest it, 64.60s underneath it, you make that lower high, that's a short. All right, you target 64.18 demand zone. Okay, then the 64.05 is the support, and see if you can come all the way back to last week's lows. Okay, around 63.98. And I don't know if you can take it this far to go down to the overnight lows of 63.60, but that could take away all of that structure. Okay. Now, this could be people going, uh-oh, right? Take all that back and we're back to square one. Why? Crude's up over $100 a barrel. Very tricky market. Very headline risk. Okay. Now, that's kind of probably my short. Okay. We could even take it one step further, go push up, right? Try to fill this gap that was left, right? But what if we hit Friday's highs, but this is still in supply, fail to fill the gap, then go back into Friday's range, put a lower high in, you short that as well. Target 64.60s, then 64.20s. Okay. Now, longs. I'm not interested in a long up where we're at. Not right now. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay. So, what would I look for? Well, if we fail here, which is fine, it's part of my short plan, but if we fail here and we push down into this 64.18 demand zone, okay, let's see if it holds. Let's see if the market internals are not that weak, and we push up, put in a lower high, and you target the 64.60s, the most traded price of Friday. And then you're going to target Friday's highs, 64.95, and try to fill the gap, 65.17s. Okay? Even if we pull back one more time deeper than this, you still have another demand that starts around the 63.98s, and you have last week's lows. Okay? This could really be a nice long as well. Put a higher low in, and then take off at 64.60s and try to do gap fill. Not gap fill, I'm sorry. You do Friday's highs, 64.95s, and then try to gap fill around 65.17s. Okay? We're due for some kind of rally. Doesn't mean the market's going to go up. It just means that sometimes when you're just selling off, you get a monster rally, and then it could still sell off. Okay? So that's the plan for the ES. NASDAQ. Okay. Let's break it out. And we're going to get right into scenarios for the NASDAQ. So here's the long and short trade scenarios for the NASDAQ futures. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to mark off some levels. Okay, so we'll do one that I forgot to do in the ES, is the 50% retracement of the overnight, which is 23337s. That just gives us the 50% retracement of the overnight session. Okay, we're already above the 23495950. That's the 50% retracement of Friday's session. So we're above both of those. Okay, and we're at the most traded price, the 235s of Friday. But we're also in supply. We're also inside Friday's range. Okay, a bunch of demand down here. Okay, and a bunch of supply overhead. Like I said, it can go either way. That's why our scenario is going to go either way. So let's get into the scenarios, and we're going to start off with the short side, same way we did in the ES. All right, now, same thing. If we push higher, off the 235s, right? I'm going to look to see if we can, one, try to fill this gap. If you fail and hit Friday's highs, those 23664s, come back in the range of Friday, put a lower high in, that's a short, target 235s. Next target is this demand at 23459s, and see if you can go all the way down to last week's lows at 23269s. Okay? Now you can also open up, push down, retest those 235s Also see if you can get the short targeting last week's lows. Okay. Now, long side, you're right at Friday's most traded price, 235s. If you get any pullback into the 234s, right, go long, you're going to target Friday's highs, 23664s. Then there's a gap. The gap fill would be 23762 to fill that gap. Okay. You could even get a deeper pullback down to the 50% retracement of the overnights, 23337s. Okay. In demand here around the 233s. You bounce higher low. Like I said, you're going to target Friday's highs and then try to get the gap fill. Okay. That's what I'm looking at this morning for the scenario. So that wraps up that. Okay. So that's it for me today, folks. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that. That would mean a lot to me and my channel. All right. Now, every morning I do this. You can subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, the economic calendar, the market news, the leaders and the laggards. A bunch of technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I'm keep adding more stuff to my Discord to see more of my scenarios, my scorecard, daily receipts, gamma levels, weekly expected moves. I give a lot of stuff free. Okay? So, please come join me. Now, everybody, we have a game plans. Remember, it's Monday. This week's end of a quarter. Friday, the expirations this week is on Thursday. Okay? So, everybody have a great day. Remember, stay green. If I don't see you in my Discord, I will see you guys here tomorrow morning. Take it easy.